Hi, Jan.
Hi.
So your client ACR is a chain of medical laboratories, right? They provide patients with MRI and CT scans, as well as other tests like blood tests and so on. So they have a very expensive testing equipment in their inventory, and they run about 250 labs, right? Usually, doctors refer their patients to one of those labs. Because ACR is worried about their profits, they've hired us to evaluate the market and their overall situation. Okay? How'd you go about it?
Okay, so our client has laboratories which offer tests to patients.
Correct.
They know that the fact that their equipment is expensive and their customers are referred by doctors. But I'm not sure about the goal yet, and I have two questions. What exactly do they want from us to increase profits or profitability, and what caused the worry about profits?
So for now, they just want an overall analysis of the market and of their profits. How would you structure it?
Okay. Well, for me, profits are a result of sales as first driver minus the costs as second driver. And sales on the one hand are composed of the amount of tests times the price per test.
Yes, exactly. Tell me some reasons why sales could be lower or steady, for instance.
Okay, just give me a second.
Sure.
Okay, so first, as I said, amount of prices. It depends on, as I said, the amount or the prices that can change. And if we have a look at the amount of tests, and for instance, we can say the overall amount of tests in the market decrease because maybe we have new substitute products. Or new machines that make tests in our labs are necessary, or people just need fewer tests because they are less sick.
Okay.
And,
how could they be less sick all of a sudden?
well, let's say we do MRT scans if people have
Accidents or
yes, exactly. And for example, if just the amount of car accidents decreased, then of course the amount
external
of
factors.
yes.
You mean?
External. And,
Okay.
Also, we can say that the overall amount of tests stay the same, but it just changes in the market have an effect. For example, if you have new competitors, they steal market share from us.
Okay.
Then on the other hand, we have prices and they can decrease because, again, due to external effects, because in the market prices drop and we have to adapt. For example, because just the competitors can offer the tests cheaper, or insurances force us to decrease prices because they are usually the ones that pay. But then to have a look at the internal internal reasons, I mean, we can decrease prices ourselves. For example, because we are able to reduce costs, and then we can reduce prices
to become more competitive.
Yes.
So, what about reasons for costs to increase? Why could costs increase? Can you name a few reasons?
Yeah, I mean, there are several. For example, costs of material can increase because we just need more, or it's more expensive, or the machines which are already quite expensive, as you said, they might even be more expensive, or we have higher labor costs because of our staff. We expect more salary.
What else then could drive higher costs?
Other fixed costs such as rent or maintenance of our labs, or the introduction of new tests that are more expensive.
Okay, so Our analysis has found that sales dropped because fewer doctors refer our clients' labs, right? Actually, what happened is a new regulation now allows doctors to run their own labs. Why would they do so? Run their own labs, what do you think?
I mean, from a business sense, because they are able to make profit with it.
Okay.
That would be the first reason.
What else? Like, can you think of reason why you? Not only money.
I mean, it could be advantages for the patients because it's. I assume that it is faster
Mm-hmm.
if they can do it, for example, right now, right after the doctor orders the test.
Mm-hmm. Very good. So, of course, not all doctors will have a lab at their places, right? So, when would labs be profitable for doctors to have them in their?
I mean, if I imagine
Offices.
building a lab that has high investment costs,
Mhm.
and I mean overall the revenues they generate with the lab must be higher than the costs that occur. I mean, of course they have to employ people as well,
Mm-hmm.
buy the machines and all that stuff.
So, what drivers does the doctor or the doctor cannot influence, like costs drivers or revenue drivers?
Yeah, I mean he cannot influence. I would say the costs because I mean he can influence them and buys the cheapest one, but they're there. I mean, he has to buy certain machines
Mm-hmm.
and he has to buy certain fixed costs, rent, and variable cost per test.
Mm-hmm.
So that's on the cost side, and on the revenue side. I assume that the prices as well are fixed because he cannot just offer cheaper prices, or I mean he can, but then he must be. I mean he still must be profitable, but he cannot offer higher prices because I think the market is structured this way that
Mm-hmm.
that
Okay.
customers' insurances will not pay for higher price tests. Is that correct?
That's true. Yeah.
Okay.
What
then-
else?
Yeah. Then as last point, I would say the customers is a point he can influence the patients because
Mhm.
he can just refer more people or just order more tests, say that people need more tests, or just, for example, focus on patients that probably will need tests.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. So here's some information I'm gonna share with you. An overview of cost and revenue, right? So how many customers per day are necessary for a lab to become profitable? For the doctor to open.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Let me just have a look. Okay. Well, the first three columns, I mean, we could use that to calculate the break-even quantity.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just kind of confused. Are the fixed costs on a yearly basis here, or where do they come from?
It's a yearly base, yeah. Fixed costs, like actually assume the fixed costs are the investments for the machines.
Ah, okay. Okay, now the 5 years here makes sense, and the days, because I mean that's the time the investment, the fixed costs are depreciated.
Exactly.
So we can
Mhm.
base this on a yearly or daily basis.
Correct.
Okay, so what I would do right now is set up an equation, break-even equation, so where we set costs equal to the revenue.
Mm-hmm.
So what we have here are the costs on the one side. This is 4 million plus 400 times x, and x are the tests customers. I mean, I assume
Mhm.
that there's one test per customer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And these are the costs, and that's equal to revenues, which are $600 times x, $600 per customer.
What's X exactly?
X are the customers or the tests.
Okay. In what time frame?
Well, right now we're talking 5 years because the entire period,
Mm-hmm.
and then we can
So okay, so the
just
break
split that
even.
down to days. But
Okay. Okay. Mm-hmm.
for right now, I mean, I've got now this equation: 2.4 million plus 200x plus 400x equals 600x.
Mm-hmm.
And now let me just solve this for x. Bring 200x on the other side. So we have 2.4 million equals 200x, and then we have to divide by 200.
Mm-hmm.
2.4 million divided by 200 gives us 12,000 customers over the entire period,
Mm-hmm.
and this is 5 years. And if we want that on a daily basis, we have to. I'm just using the information I have here.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
5 years and 300 days per year. So this gives us 1,500 days in this
Mhm.
period. So this gives us a daily amount of 8 tests or 8 customers that we
Okay.
need to be profitable, because 12,000 divided by 1,500 equals 8. And,
Mhm.
well, I mean, this should answer your question, but I think this is really useful information because it shows the threat to our client,
Mm-hmm.
especially doctors who can refer many patients. So doctors that are really useful for us are the ones who start their own labs. And to evaluate the danger, I would now
Mm-hmm.
I would like to know the percentage of our customers that are referred by doctors, and how many of those are referred by doctors that refer more than 8 patients.
Okay. I have almost what you need. That's a very good point about the referrals. So let me share with you the average number of patients that are referred per day, based on, well, the contribution, the revenue contribution, put another way, across the different number of patients referred per day by doctors. So you can see, of course, the most revenue comes from doctors who refer only one patient per day.
Okay.
And then you have a long tail.
Okay, great. So we've got already some revenue from the ones that are referred by doctors.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other resources where we get patients from?
Yes. What do you think? Why could they be relevant, for instance? And what could they be, these other sources?
I mean, with what we have right now, we can calculate how much revenue we will lose because certain doctors will build their own labs. And from the first impression
Mhm.
here, I would say this is not a whole lot because we say just doctors with more than 8 patients will open their own labs. So these are the last 2 categories.
Mm-hmm.
$20 million dollars of revenue we might lose.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be interesting just to set that in relation to the overall revenue we have, just to see what impact that is.
Mm-hmm. Let's say 3/4 of the revenue is generated by patients referred by doctors.
Okay, 3/4.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then let me just calculate the impact. So as I said, we have 20 million revenue
Mm-hmm.
we might lose. And I mean, we assume that also doctors with exactly 8 patients will not open labs because their profit would be 0 and there's no reason for them to open one.
So, just to make sure I got it, you're saying that doctors with exactly 8 patients per day would not open their own lab because they would be just break even and wouldn't make any money. Is that right? Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm. So what?
And
How much revenue would we lose then with those doctors opening their own labs? For those for whom it makes sense to open their own labs, those with more than 8 patients per day. Remember, we have 3/4 of the total revenue being generated by those patients.
Yes, overall we have, I mean, let me just look at this. So we have first, second, that's already 200, 280. Well, just roughly we have 400 million revenues from referrals, and if this is 3/4 of the overall revenue, we have some more, and so 400 at 3/4. To add the additional quarter, so a third of the thing we have. So it is about 530 million overall revenue we have. And,
okay. Exactly how much would that be exactly?
If we say 400 million, and exactly it would be, I mean, 533.33.
Okay. Go ahead then.
Yeah, and now we say that 20 million of that is lost, and that is, I mean, it is less than 4%. And however, I think it is even less, because in this calculation we expect that all doctors will open their own labs, but I don't think they will, because they might have space restrictions in the doctor's office, or they just don't know about the possibility of opening their own lab.
Sure. Well, not everybody will go through the calculation to make sure they will be profitable.
Exactly.
Okay, I agree. Yeah. So, what's the percentage of the doctors that would open their own labs, or what percentage of the revenue would we lose to those doctors opening labs?
Yeah, with having in mind that not all doctors will open the lab, it is less than 3%.
Okay. 3 or 4%.
Yeah. I mean, to kind of conclude that.
Well, exactly. So our time is running out. We already learned a lot of things. So can you wrap up what you learned and conclude the case? Recommend what if the client should do something about this new situation with doctors opening labs?
Okay.
Take your time to structure your closing if you want.
Okay, well, after the analysis, especially of the parts with the doctors, I would not worry too much about this issue, because right now this is only 3% of revenue. However, I would have a closer look in the future on that, because if we expect more than that to lose, because for example it becomes profitable also for doctors that have just 4 patients or more, then it becomes dangerous to us.
So you mean if
for
it's
that, for that we have to look at the revenue and the future revenue and the future costs to evaluate that, how they might develop. And right now, I mean, to do something, I think an interesting approach would be a countermeasure would be to force to have a discount on referral to more than 8 patients, or just an overall price drop, because then it becomes less profitable for doctors to open their own labs, and that would be an idea, but I think we have to calculate this really closely if the price drop will make up for, or if the let's say it's digital to patients, we additionally, or we do not lose by decreasing the prices if that makes up for the price decrease.
All right. Very good. Thank you very much.